enough to be at the premiere of this film up in the Dandenongs when it first screened, and it just absolutely blew me away. So I wanted to start off by saying congratulations on being involved with such a fantastic film.
Oh, thanks so much.
So for our listeners out there who may not have seen the film yet, tell us a little bit about your character and what drew you to that character.
Well, I guess a little bit of context about the film. I play the father of I think she's 6-year-old girl who said that their family friends who have a 10-year-old son has touched her inappropriately, which obviously is quite a shocking thing to come to terms with. In the best of times, but with a small, girl and your daughter, pretty difficult terrain. So I guess what drew me to the film was just the complexity of what's being discussed here and how difficult it is for all the people involved to wrap their heads around what has happened here. And as an actor, you're always looking for material that's sort of asking questions and challenging, that isn't necessarily providing answers. And I just thought it's such a challenging and complex sort of mental and emotional web these people find themselves in. And Danny, the character that I play, I think, in a way, he's sort of the most level-headed of the group, and is trying to come to terms with what's happened and how they're going to deal with it as the two families and protect their children and make sure that they're getting the help and care that they need. And I don't think that he anticipates how ugly things are going to get. So I think I was really drawn to Danny trying to find the humanity in all the people there and deal with the situation. Like adults and like the caregivers that they are, but they all just go down this rabbit hole of pain and guilt and anger and shame, and so it was, reading the script, it was a very compelling sort of thing to look at. It just felt very human and very difficult and very messy, and they're the most exciting things for me to try to explore.
I was going to ask that. What was that like reading the script? Because to me, if this had been a novel, it's one of those novels I wouldn't have been able to put down, because with every conversation in this film, it feels like something else is revealed, but the intrigue just grows and grows. Was that something that came through to you when you were reading the script?
Yeah, I think it did. I mentioned that word before, mess, of just like, oh my God. And I think the most interesting thing about the script, and something that I appreciated so much in it, was that the more they deal, or try to avoid the truth or avoid what's happened, that they're essentially kind of confronting themselves. It sort of takes a step away from the incident that's actually happened, and they all sort of take a journey into their interior landscape and what they're dealing with as people. And I really, really loved that, it sort of starts as this rational, an attempt at a rational problem-solving conversation between two sets of parents about how they're going to deal with this, and then it just devolves into the worst aspects of ourselves, and they're like the children they're trying to protect in the end of the film. And that's quite skillful writing from Michael, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that I realized when I went back and watched the film this week was when I first watched this film, it was before the whole Christian Porter story had come out of federal parliament. And then when I went back and watched it again, I realized that the political side to this film actually takes on a whole new meaning now that we have had a high profile case like this with the Christian Porter case as well. Do you think that audiences will be able to see kind of a link there almost in a sense?
Absolutely, and I think, you know, yes, we did shoot the film before all of this, but you know, I've noticed in people's responses, like, I don't mean this to sound generic, but you know, in some ways, the character Beck that Geraldine plays, in some ways, you know, off the page, she sort of almost seemed like the villain in a sense, you know. But then there's this entire shift of thinking that has occurred with us as a society, and suddenly the character is so rich and complex, and you know, our sympathies kind of can't help but reach towards her, and it definitely felt during the screenings that, like, wow, this has just landed in a zeitgeist that, you know, no one could have anticipated. So I did find that incredibly interesting.
Yeah. How did you approach playing Danny? Because this is such an emotional film. It must have been very difficult for you to get into the head of that character, because there's so much going on there for Danny. He's got his career to think of, but at the foremost, he's a father whose daughter has been abused. How did you put yourself into that mindset to play Danny? And did you do any research into parents that have had children sexually abused?
I sort of like, sometimes I like to research in depth, and sometimes I just sort of kind of just try to place myself there, and I think that Danny is just spiraling in a way. His head is a mess of thoughts and feelings, and I guess tried to sort of be in that state of not quite knowing what's going on. So yeah, it was tricky to prepare for, in a sense, and it was also tricky. Adding to that was the way that Michael shot the film, which was a lot of locked off, extremely long takes. So you know when the general practice of shooting film or TV show, you know, you can sort of work your edit a bit, you know, and we didn't really have that luxury on this, and you know, fortunately, all four of us had theatre backgrounds, which really sort of came in handy on this project of being able to sustain long sweeps of thought. You know, it's just, I really, you know, thought it was just so fascinating that they all sort of know the truth, but they just can't bear to face that truth. They're all denying that truth. And I guess in terms of Danny, I think I just really tried, you know, because you're working as a quartet on a piece like this, and I think I just tried to find that note of, this is a reasonable man. He views these people as his friends, and I think perhaps looking at the film or looking back now, his view is rather naive, perhaps. But I truly think that he believes that they're there to look after the kids and get the kids the care and, you know, help that they need to get through this. And I think he's quite shocked with where they end up and how quickly they they spiral into just some sort of madness.
Yeah, I said in my review that the power of this film is the cast. It's got such an amazing cast. The four of you do such a stunning job, especially with the really, really intense scenes. What was it like to work with your co-stars, but also what was it like on set when you finish some of those really intense scenes? Like, how do you then just go back to just being Mark, Geraldine, Matilda, and Tom talking to each other?
Well, I think one good thing is that we were all quite good friends. Actually, I'm engaged to Geraldine. And I'm very close with Tom and Matilda. So we had a sort of blanket of trust, sort of sitting underneath us. And the material asked us to be brave and to be ugly and to throw everything we could at it, which is what we tried to do. And I think the way we were shooting, when Michael said, like, okay, I think we got it, I think it was just relief, really, because we were, you're just walking a tightrope of like, oh, okay, is this working? They're not going to call cut with long takes, so just had to keep stay in that explorative zone with it. But yeah, I think I think the fact that we were all friends and so close meant that we could complete some difficult work and then return to our friendships, and and that sort of just is what kept us going throughout it. Also, it was a single location too, so it was quite a little pressure cooker that was created, which was, that Michael, the director, did so beautifully.
Yeah, the location is actually not far from where I live, actually, in one of the most beautiful parts of Victoria. Tell us a little bit about how the location added to the film, because I thought it almost became an identity to itself during the film.
Absolutely. And there's just, I think what that did was, by sort of dealing with this event in real time, in one location, it just turns the heat up on the story. It just became this pressure cooker where things are going to come to a head. And it is such a beautiful part of the world. Sorry, I'm just, I've just got some people talking in the background. It is such a beautiful part of the world, and I think that sort of added to it. That, under the veneer of this beauty, this natural, wonder, there's dark things that happen, and I think the film tried to convey that with that final drone shot of all those swimming pools dotted around, that this is happening in a lot of houses. There's a lot of things going on that people don't see. So yeah. And plus, I just love the challenge of that stuff, man. When people would just go like, okay, I'm going to make this film, and I'm going to shoot it in just one location, and we don't have heaps of money. I just love the urgency and the creativity of that, and I find that really exciting to be around.
Definitely. And you've mentioned a couple of times now about Michael's way of shooting. I find him to be a filmmaker that I can't wait to see what he does next. I think he has an amazing career ahead of him in the Australian film industry. Tell us a little bit about Michael. What's he like to work with as a filmmaker?
Oh, he's fantastic, man. And I just, films are hard to make at the best of times. And then, so the extra degree of will and determination and urgency to get this made and shot, with a sort of limited budget, it's really inspiring. He's so smart. He's so patient. And he just has a sensitivity and intelligence and a vision, a real vision for this film. And so they're the ingredients that you want when you're working with a director. That he sees this and he's thought deeply about this and the way that he wants to tell it. So yeah, I really hope that he makes another film soon, because he's got such a beautiful voice and a beautiful sensitivity. So yeah, I agree with you entirely. I hope that this is the start of many features, because they're meaningful works. I thought that this was a meaningful work. This was looking at something difficult, and yet finding a way that that it's not too much for an audience. That there's still an aspect of entertainment and an absurdity to it in a way that starts to seep into the material. So he was just very confident. I think this is his first feature, and he just had this confidence and this calm, and he was very beautiful to work with.
Definitely. Well, Mark, I know we are running out of time very, very quickly, so just to wrap up, what would you like to say to our audience out there before they go to check out this amazing film?
Look, thank you. If you're getting out there to see it, thank you, because I just think the more people that can support, particularly indie Australian cinema, the more exciting our work becomes, the more dangerous our work becomes. And so I just appreciate it. So I sincerely hope you enjoy it, and just supporting films like this is just makes me feel great, because it makes me excited about what the future of what we can do as a sort of Australian filmmaking community. Gets me excited about that.
Definitely.